March 5th, 2024. The time is 1:32 p.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. In attendance are Commissioners Brooks, Matari, and Duncan. Are there changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Public comment? Okay. And our one and only item is the Idaho Bureau of Land Management update with District Manager Kurt, is it Pindell? Yes. All right. If you want to come, have a seat at one of the tables, and then you can just push that button and it'll turn green and we'll be able to hear you.
Thank you for meeting.
Yes. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
All right, great. Sounds good. I do have cards. I'll get those to you at the end, but I would rather stand, if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. We also actually have, if that's more comfortable,
Sure.
you can also stand there.
Okay. I think I'll just stand here.
Okay.
Good. My apologies for not meeting sooner. I had every intention. I've lived in North Idaho now for 15 years. I became a district manager about 4.5 years ago. So my intention was to meet with all my county commissioners as fast as I could. COVID hit. We know how that went, right? So everything got turned back. My sincere intention is that we will meet with you at least yearly, kind of give you updates, see what's going on, and also so you get to know names and faces. So if anything ever happens on some of our public lands, especially related to BLM, you could simply call us at that time and we can have a chat, because most times with something going on, we could probably resolve most of those issues one-on-one. So with that, I'm going to go through a few things that I have. I'm going to keep it at the state national level. If you have any questions, certainly bring them up at any time. So I'm just going to jump into a few of those. I brought the rest of my staff, which I'll introduce real quick. I have Suzanne Ensley. She's the Deputy District Manager for Ray Pease is my Field Manager.
Hi.
For Coeur d'Alene, and Michael Trevor Green is our Acting Public Affairs Officer.
Okay.
And we'll get into actings and why we have those later. But first off, I want to talk about some changes that we're making nationally. So in the past, when I would conduct area closures, let's say there was a fire.
Can I just interrupt you for 1 second?
Sure.
You're talking the Federal Bureau of Land Management, so I'm not sure why our agenda says Idaho Bureau of Land Management, but we'll just cross that off.
Yeah, that's fine. But I
Okay.
do work for Idaho. So the way the Bureau is segmented, it's by states.
Oh, okay.
So I work for
Okay.
the Idaho State Director, essentially.
Gotcha.
But you're right, I am a federal entity. That's
Okay.
correct. So essentially, closures. We've been operating in the past of the way I would have to do it legally is I have to publish a Federal Register notice. That's 45 days just to get that out the door. It's another 30 days for review by the public. Then I can, if we have a fire in 60 days, that fire's over.
Right.
So we're trying to change the rule. There is a Federal Register notice out right now that'll change that. What it'll do is it'll designate each state director the authority to close that area. The state director can then delegate that one time to her district managers. And that's Karen Keller. So I would have the authority to close something immediately. Now, what I would do, and I've done this a few times in the past, I've been a Forest Service employee and a Bureau of Land Management employee. Typically what I'll do is I'll get with your sheriff and we will discuss what makes sense as far as, because most times it's not going to be a geologic features, it's going to be by roads, that sort of thing. So we'll have that discussion. A lot of times your sheriff will obviously discuss things with you at that same time. And then we'll have discussions about area closures and also evacuation orders, that sort of thing. I don't do evacuation orders, but I typically like to coordinate with, obviously, the county on what could happen. So this will give us the ability to act much quicker than we've ever had the ability to in the past. So I think this will be a good thing for us, but I just want to make sure that everybody's going to be on board because we're going to have to do some quick coordination when we start to do that. So the other thing that becomes important for us at the same time is the GAOA. That is basically an act that was passed that was a Trump administration that gave us a bunch of money to potentially upgrade some of our recreation sites. So we have a bunch of recreation sites, 12, 14, I can't remember, and we received millions of dollars to upgrade some of those recreation sites. So we're going to do that, and it's a flurry of different things. There are docks that we're going to improve, some boat launches, we're going to do slurry seals on some of our parking lots, that sort of thing. But as you can well imagine, when I go in there to do some of that work, I can't have it open to the public at the same time. So this becomes obviously very nice to have the ability to close that site. And I obviously want to do it as little time as possible. We've obviously talked to our contractors to say, can you do it off season, that sort of thing. So there is none of this, but we have to give open windows for our contractors because, you know, if you give a very narrow contract window, the price goes up. So we've done the best we can to try to keep the cost reasonable, and it's within that window. We will get with our contractors. We'll do our very best to let the public know when we're going to be closing some of those sites to try to give them the best heads up we can. For example, when we do the slurry seal out at Blackwell Island, which everybody knows Blackwell Island, when we do it there, it'll probably be a 2-day operation. It could be a little bit more, but it just depends. I mean, we'll have to go in there. We have to blow the site off. You have to get all the dirt and all the rocks out, and then we have to seal it, and then we have to wait a day. So it's a couple-day operation at least. So with that, we'd have to have the site closed for a few days. Can we do it in May? If you give me a nice day in May, I'll do it. If the contractor has the ability to do it at that time too. But could it be in June or July? It could. It's simply going to have to wait. We'll have to see. Well, obviously, like I said, we'll try to keep it out of the weekends too. Try to do that. Try to decrease our impact as much as we can. Questions on any of that?
Questions?
No, thanks.
Bill? I
Next-
do, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with the fires that we just had last year, were you involved in any of those as far as what's your role
Yeah.
when?
So Ray and I and Suzanne all play a role as agency administrators. So the fire team reports to us. We are the owners of the land. We delegate the authority for that team to come in and operate on some of those public lands. So they have to report to us, and basically we're the ones operating the structure. We'll obviously listen to them. They're the specialists, but they'll come to us and say, can we build a contingency line? So that's where our involvement in with the Bureau at this point is. There were some ideas about where we could build effective contingency lines. So if the fire escaped, we already have dozers and we have things in line that we've built up a road that we can stop the fire from continuing in that way. So we'll work with the incoming team, which was, by the way, delegated through the Forest Service at this point because it was their fire. But yes, we'll work in that same sort of environment with them on strategy, tactics, those sorts of things. That's
Okay.
what we'll try.
I went to several update meetings with Holly.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
sure. Yep.
why I was wondering what your role with that situation is.
Holly's an agency administrator at the same time, so yeah, and she had delegated authority, which means her agency was responsible. We were not delegated straight because we weren't involved with the fire itself, but we had other delegated authorities that we were working on.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
all right, great. And where's your office?
Our office is right on Kathleen, on the west side of Kathleen, in the INRC, the Interagency Natural Resource Center.
Okay.
So we're the basement.
Gotcha.
We're the downstairs, actually. The first floor.
That's the new building.
Yes, yeah, it's a beautiful building. If you've not been, we should have a meeting there sometime. We should have you over. It's a great building. And that rolls right into something else I could talk about, and actually Suzanne will get into it a little bit more, but the Resource Advisory Committee, I think you might be fairly familiar with those. We are having the Resource Advisory Committee, which is now only run at the state level. We used to have individual racks, but now we just have a state rack. That state rack is going to meet in Coeur d'Alene mid-May. So they'll be up, and I don't want to steal thunder, so I'm going to leave that to Suzanne in a little bit here. So the next piece I'll get into is there has been some leadership changes. I mentioned Karen Keller is our state director. Peter Ditton, who you might have met at some point because Peter's been here for 42 years. I think he was a federal employee. And most of that in Idaho. He retired this December, and June Shoemaker is now our associate state director. So those are the two folks that are in our leadership roles for the state. Also, we had a change this last year. I have been the district manager since I was hired here in 2019 as the joint district. So I managed the BLM lands within the 11 northern counties in Idaho, and I also had the state of Washington. So trying to meet with 25 county commissioners there, 11 here, 36 was a little bit crazy. So they finally recognized that and they said, that's too much. We're going to split it back apart. So now I'm solely in Idaho. So that's why I'm getting out. I have a little more time so I can meet with folks. So I'm looking forward to trying to do some of that. Recruitment. One of the things I know we've all been talking about is recruitment. So I was just talking to Sheriff Morris about this the other day. With the last few years, there's been a lot of opportunity for folks to move around. So we've lost some folks, and trying to get folks back into some of these areas has been difficult, especially at our lower levels. It's very difficult to try to afford, and I'm not telling you anything new, afford a house or a place to stay in Coeur d'Alene. So we've had our difficulties in recruiting, I think as everybody else has. We are doing very well recently. We've been able to upgrade a few of our positions because you just can't fill them at some of those lower grades. We've been able to upgrade and thus fill some of those positions. So we're doing well. I think we're at about 70% of our vacant, or 70% occupancy. We have 30% vacancy rate, and all those vacancies are typically right now, 80% of those are at our lower levels. So there's our folks that are going to come in and help our rec staff, that sort of thing. That's where we're really hurting right now. So we do have an increased rec staff, which is great. We were able to do that. So obviously that helps to keep all our recreation sites open, that sort of thing. So it'll help. We are missing a few key positions though. One is our realty specialist, because you can imagine a very fractured landscape. We do have 296,000 acres of the northern 11 counties here, and within that, most of that is smaller 40, 80, 120 acre parcels here and there. So we have a lot of folks that need rights of way, that sort of thing, to start getting to some of their lands. And that's a lot of times through us. And we've been without a realty specialist now for almost 2 years. So that's really hurt. So the backlog is huge. We do have someone hired. They say they'll be here end of April. So hopefully that'll help us out. That's all I had. I think I'm going to have Suzanne get up and maybe chat about RAC for just a few minutes. Unless you had any other questions for me.
Any questions?
It was great meeting you.
No,
Thank you.
likewise. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
This will be quick. Should I stand, or I'm just as tall when I sit? No.
Whatever you like.
All right. My name is Suzanne Inslee. I am the Deputy District Manager for the Coeur d'Alene District. Been with the BLM since 2011. Previously, I was with Idaho Panhandle National Forest, so longtime resident of Kootenai County. I wanted to talk to you just briefly about our Resource Advisory Committee. We used to have, and Kurt mentioned this, we used to have a local 5 northern counties, actually with the southern part of our district, which is down by Cottonwood, Grangeville, Idaho County, Nez Perce County as well. We had a kind of a local Resource Advisory Committee. We shifted that a few years ago to be a statewide Resource Advisory Committee, but we really want to have some North Idaho voices on that. And so we right now, in fact today, nomination period has opened. And previously I know the county has had a Natural Resource Committee in the county. I don't know if that's still active. Okay, so I'd like to just pass this information on and maybe you could share. We have potentially 5 positions. One is actually including an elected official, which could be sheriff, commissioner, that sort of thing. The nomination period runs through the 4th of April. I brought an application, and I'll leave my card. Actually, it's back there, but I'll leave my card with you. If anyone is interested, I've worked with this for a long time, so I can help them fill out the information. They'll need a support letter. But we're just looking for interest in a variety of areas, and it's all defined on this current membership list. So if you're interested or know someone that is. And then also, as Kurt mentioned, we are going to be hosting the statewide RAC meeting in mid-May. One of the goals is that we are going to do a field tour with them to show them BLM sites such as Blackwell Island Recreation Site, Mica Bay, probably Blue Creek Bay area. That's going to be open to the public. We'll be getting news release and that sort of information out. You're welcome to come. You would have to provide your own transportation, but we'll have a published agenda for that. So any interested folks are welcome to that. So, okay.
Thank you.
Great. So I don't know if I can just leave this with the clerk, if that's all right?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
So we'll have the BOCC representative give that to our Natural Resource Advisory Board.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks
I'll
for that.
give my card too. And then, did you, I think
Next, my name's Ray Pease. I'm the field manager here in Coeur d'Alene, and so I'll try to cover, I guess, some of the pieces that didn't get yet. And like I say, we covered the staffing, and as you folks know, is like in Coeur d'Alene. I've been here since 2021. Been with the agency about 27 years, but here since 2021 as a field manager, and just the influx of people and activities on the landscape has increased just our workload, maintenance, and whatnot. So we have, when I got here, I think we had 10 or 11 employees, so it went down to 4. Now we're back to 8 and looking to add a few more people. So I'm looking forward to that. We are business plans for fee sites. So we have 6 fee sites in and around Kootenai County, Shoshone County, but Windy Bay, Micah Bay, Blackwell boat launch, and then Mineral Boat Launch are areas that we're looking at when the RAC does come up, is to make a proposal for increases in those fee sites. And the last time we did it was 2012. And so it's overdue. And that's going to be, we're proposing that this year. As many of you, or some of you may know, like Ross Point in Post Falls, that's a project that we completed this last spring. That was, or last fall, that was completed. And we got that in, and then we're in agreement with the city of Post Falls where they manage the site and whatnot. So let's see, implementation of Kurt went over the GOA projects, and yeah, we've received a bunch of money, and so we're trying to go through and do a lot of updates on our recreational sites, and that includes the fee and then also non-feed sites at Blue Creek Bay, a lot of our sites in there, Mineral Ridge, Beauty Bay, and then we've got some sites up in Benawa and Shoshone County as well, Huckleberry Campground. And so we're getting an influx of money to go through and to do a needed improvement in those facilities. Forestry, some forestry activities we have going on. Kootenai is out at Micah Bay. We're in a Good Neighbor Authority working with the IDL, and there's approximately a 400-acre plantation out there that we are going to go in and do a kind of a fuels reduction, and also to see if we can, harvest any merch out of there. And so we're working with IDL on that, and that's something we're proposing right now, working with the fuels and forestry groups to hopefully in the next year have a project in there. And then our hazardous fuels. I guess around here we are, like I said, staffed up. I think when I got here they had 1 person. Now they've got, 2 planners and then techs and stuff. So to help us get more of a handle on our hazardous fuels work. And so last year we had a bunch of residual piles, and that the technicians went out and were able to take care of a lot of those. And then moving forward, we are working with Forest Service on the I-90 East. They're looking at that, and it's, looking at kind of where it interacts with the public, and working with them to come up with, where do we go in the next 3 to 5 years as far as forestry and fuels projects in and around those communities. So that is all I have, unless there's any questions that you guys have
Questions?
for me.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We can give you 10 minutes back.
Oh,
Unless you have any questions for us.
no, I don't. I think that was a well-rounded, informative, and kind of exciting for you guys to have more projects. So,
Are there any specific things that you'd be interested in or something that's coming up?
do you have to come to the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because, these are on YouTube and they can't hear you if
No.
you're not talking.
If
to
you
the
guys have
microphone.
anything that you're interested in chatting about, that sort of thing, I mean, we could certainly bring that back at some point, but I'm just curious if you guys have any specific things that you want to talk about that weren't anything that we had in our specific updates.
No, I just think that getting that closure notice, sooner than 75 days is probably going to be helpful.
Oh, yeah. Those need to go out overnight, actually.
Yeah.
Because they're obviously, you're talking, we have to man some of those roads, that sort of thing, and that takes a lot of coordination, because sometimes it's our folks, sometimes, and what frequencies are we using, how are we
Right.
doing that, how are we informing the public? There's a lot of information that goes in that. And a lot of that happens between midnight and 3 a.m. That's just the way that goes.
All right, thank you
Okay.
so much.
Sure. I'm going
Thank
to
you.
leave these with the clerk, if that's okay.
Yeah, or us, it doesn't matter. I
All
mean,
right.
yeah, we're good. So,
All right. Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for
Appreciate
coming
it.
out.
All right, public comment. All right, 1:51, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.